would like to introduce our two speakers for tonight, Chris Smalls and Derrick Palmer. Chris and Derrick are co-founders and president and vice president, respectively, of the first successful union of workers at Amazon, recognized by the National Labor Relations Board. In an era where labor is struggling more than ever to secure the rights of workers, Chris and Derrick have been working bravely and tirelessly to lead the effort to improve working conditions at Amazon, one of the largest companies in the world, as we all know. On April 1st of 2021, the workers at Amazon warehouse of Staten Island voted to unionize under the representation of the ALU, paving the way for a revolution in labor relations in America. Since then, Chris and Derrick have continued to work to expand the ALU's reach to offices across the U.S. and negotiate their first contract. Chris has made appearances on The Daily Show, The Young Turks, Sam Seder's Majority Report, and more. And in 2022, they were both recognized as Times 100 as two of Times 100 most influential people, which is only the beginning of the recognition they deserve. So we're honored to welcome them to speak tonight and share their insights. With that being said, another round of applause for Chris Smalls and Derrick Palmer. We'll be doing a quick address and then Q&A.
Sure.
Great, yeah.
Floor is ours?
Huh?
The floor is ours? We good?
Yes, yeah.
All right. Well, thank you all for having us. Definitely, it's funny, I was just down here a month ago, and when I was down here, I was talking to the law students. Jennifer Bruzel, our legal team was here, and then after that event, I had to go across town to Temple University and join their picket line. So I'm happy to be down here and talking about unionizing because there's definitely a desire for it and a need for it right here at this university as well. From talking to the students and tapping into the community, I'm seeing that the organizing efforts is just picking up and not going backwards. So I'm happy to amplify it. And me and Derrick being from New Jersey, we're next door neighbors. So, driving down here, an hour and a half to come stand in solidarity is nothing for us. That's easy trip. So we'll do it as much as possible, as often as possible, allowing our schedules to make sense of it. And we will definitely support whatever efforts that are on the ground here. So thank you all for having us, first and foremost. And I'm glad that we are having this opportunity to really tell people our story, because a lot of people don't know from outside of what they heard or read in our articles and newspapers. So for myself, I'll start with a brief summary of how we got to this point. I started with Amazon 2015, entry level. Was working for $12.75, and I was working pretty hard because I thought that that honeymoon phase, when you first get hired at the company, you're thinking that the company's gonna take care of you. I worked hard, got promoted up to a supervisor in my first year. I was fortunate enough to have a general manager who actually cared about his workers, and he hired from within half the building at the time, which is about 500 people. He promoted over 50% of us, majority of us being Black and brown. A lot of them are my good friends that still work at the company till this day. So that happening in my first year gave me some hope with the company, thinking they were going to continue promoting from within and also giving us equal employment opportunity to move up in the company, as it only takes 2 years to become a salaried manager from entry level. So I have really high hopes and expectations. Unfortunately, my honeymoon phase lasted longer than I expected. I was in a supervisor position for 4.5 years, opening up 2 other buildings, one in BDL2, Windsor, Connecticut, and JFK, Staten Island being my last building. I started off at EWR 9 in Carteret, New Jersey. So opening up 3 buildings, being in a supervisor position for 4.5 years, but only being interviewed to become a manager twice. I applied over 50 times, and this was before COVID-19 came into play. So systemically, Amazon has some issues. 70% of the management, upper management is white. There's no representation when it comes to that. The higher up the food chain you go, the less diverse it was. And I didn't realize that until COVID really came into play, and I'm looking around and I'm asking for help and really trying to protect the workers who we spend 50, 60 hours a week with during that time that I got anywhere. And it was only, Derrick Palmer and other workers who I had to lean on. At that moment when we decided to take a stance against the company for not protecting us, management told me not to tell them that there was people coming to work positive when New York City was the epicenter of the world. So it was a no-brainer. It was a life or death situation. This is before the vaccine, before you were, accessible to get testing. The CDC seemed like they were changing their guidelines like on a daily basis if you watched the news at that time. So there was no real guidance, and we were deemed essential workers from the company. We got a letter saying we're essential workers, and it didn't make any sense to me. How are we essential when we don't have any medical expertise? We can't save lives. We're not the Red Cross. We were being compared to all of these things, and I was like, we're nothing but warehouse workers. And our job description says lift 50 pounds or have a high school diploma or GED. It didn't say work during a deadly pandemic, and that's what I couldn't stand with. So me and Derrick made that decision March, probably around this time. Yeah, March 14th, 3 years ago. That's when pandemic was really taking off. New York City was becoming the epicenter of the world. Matter of fact, I was looking at my memories last night on Snapchat, and we were literally in a club, partying, having fun, going to work, just living our lives 3 years ago. We actually had a party at the Amazon building during the pandemic. And I shared the videos on my Instagram right now. And this is what we were doing. We were literally pretty much living life as normal. And when they told me not to tell workers that there were people coming in positive, that was our last time working for the company, at least mine. We took a stance. We organized the workers in the cafeteria, me and Derrick, every morning, go into the building, telling workers the truth, that there's people that's coming to work sick, the company's not telling you, and we need to march on the boss so that we can shut the building down, at least until they protect us and pay us. And that's all we wanted, simple demands. But of course, Amazon thought we were probably organizing the union, which we weren't. And they decided to target me and quarantine just me out of the 5,000 workers at that time that was working at JFK. So obviously, silencing me would have stopped the whole momentum. We realized that, so we continued to demonstrate anyway. On March 30th, we held a walkout outside of the building. 2 hours after that walkout, that's when the company decided to terminate me over the phone. A week after that, Jeff Bezos, who was making $13 billion a day, $9 million an hour, almost $5,000 a second, the richest man in the world at the time, decided to have a smear campaign meeting on me with his general counsel, David Sapolsky. And David Sapolsky said, let's make me the face of the whole unionizing efforts against Amazon, which was, I guess, a good idea. But at the same time, he also said some racist, calling me not smart or articulate. And Jeff Bezos signed off on that. That memo leaked out to the public, to the New York Times. And from that moment, I decided to make a decision. We're going to continue to fight so that what happened to me doesn't happen to anybody else. So me and Derrick, we formed the Congress of Essential Workers, a nonprofit. We took our organization and we traveled to every Jeff Bezos mansion that we could find. in the country, from Washington, D.C. to New York City to Beverly Hills to Seattle, Washington. And we demonstrated, we brought workers together. And at the same time, while we were doing that, that's when Alabama started to organize their first union drive. So we paid attention, even though we had no intention on unionizing Staten Island, we still was obviously, like everybody else, galvanized by their efforts. So we decided to drive down there. And we drove 16 hours from New York to Bessemer, Alabama. And what we learned was a lot of things. The union and the workers, there was a little bit of a disconnect. The workers had to organize to get an election, but the union job is to help facilitate that, make sure that the workers committee grows, and over time there's enough influence within the workforce so that they could be victorious. But what we learned was that there really was no workers committee the first campaign. It was more of politicized. You know, they brought a lot of politicians and a lot of celebrities, you know, from Bernie to AOC to Cori Bush. They all went down there, and they all got a lot of publicity, of course, in that aspect. But that doesn't matter to workers who work 50, 60 hours a week, who don't come home and watch Democracy Now! They're going home and they're either rinsing or repeating, getting ready for work the next day, or going to another job. That is the lives of an actual Amazon worker. You know, we live check to check. We work multiple jobs. We have families. We don't have that much downtime to do any of these things, especially organize a union. And that's what we learned. The disconnect was that you have to educate the established unions sometimes on what it is like to work at an Amazon building, you know, and that hasn't been done in 29 years. Amazon's been around for 29 years, and that fight has seemed to never really took off until the efforts began in Bessemer. So we decided to come home to Staten Island and try our own efforts independently, forming the Amazon Labor Union in April of 2021. With that campaign, when we started, we had nothing but what you see here: a table, 2 chairs, and a canopy, and a sign that says "Sign your authorization cards." That was it. We had a GoFundMe to the point where every penny that came in that GoFundMe went towards our efforts. The day we won, April 1st last year, we had $2.50 in our account. That's how much people didn't believe that we were going to win. Every New York major media publication, from the New York Times to major media across the country, already had their narratives wrote that we lost as they were counting the ballots. So the hope wasn't there. Unions weren't even supporting us. Labor wasn't really supporting us. We were on our own. And that is because, you know, being independent, you know, going up against $1 trillion company, obviously there was some doubt. So we had to figure out how we were able to defeat Amazon. And the only thing I can really tell y'all is that it was nothing more and nothing less than people's power. When we came together as people, we put aside our political views, we put aside our differences, whether, you know, where we come from. We put all of that aside, and we put the focus on the boss, Amazon, and the employer, and the work-related issues. Like some of you may have heard me tell Lindsey Graham, it's not a left or a right thing, it's a workers thing. We organized Staten Island, which is the only red borough out of the 5 boroughs of New York. It's Trump Island. There's Trump signs everywhere. So we couldn't go into this fight, you know, just being on one side. We had to stay neutral. We had to keep it work-related. And when we're talking about a warehouse that employs over 8,000 members, let me tell you, they're all not Democrats. So this battle was really a chess match. Amazon make a move, we make a move. But what we realized is the disconnect is with the workers. Amazon doesn't know the workers the way we do. We are the workers. We the ones that run the company. We run the buildings. We know the ins and outs of the company. We know the grievances. We live these realities every day. And that's was our biggest advantage to our campaign. Amazon doesn't know us the way we do. And our creativity, along with, doing some things untraditionally, that helped us navigate through our campaign, which lasted over 300 days. Myself, I was on the outside being fired. I had to stay at a bus stop. Winter, hot summer days, you name it, I was out there. Days, nights, I was out there. Derrick Palmer, seven-year Amazon vet, he's still inside the building along with other organizers. And that inside-outside combination, workers seeing us on an everyday basis, building relationships, earning their trust, that's free. That solidarity is free. It doesn't cost a thing to have a conversation. And the fact that we were showing the workers that we care for them, other than numbers, metrics, machinery, robots, we're showing the workers love and solidarity and being there every day, feeding them food, whether it's buying an Uber ride home or even to the hospital. These little details is what matters the most to these workers, because we all know that Amazon can care less whether these workers live or die. We saw that during the pandemic. So it was more of the culture that we created that Amazon never seen before, and what the world on the larger scale hasn't seen before. This culture, the new school style of organizing, us not being traditional, us really making unionizing cool, making it appealing, and educating the workers, because workers don't know their rights and it's not their fault. We spent a large portion of our campaign doing that. And, we once again, on April 1st of last year, these workers decided to take their fate in their own hand, and they voted, and they became the first union in American history for Amazon. After that, obviously, there's still a legal process. So Amazon objected to the election results, which we all know they only do that to stall out the process. So the 25 objections was pending in court for months on end. But as of, I believe, a little bit over a month ago, they were dismissed by the National Labor Relations Board, Region 29. And officially, we finally are certified as an official union with the National Labor Relations Board. Yeah. So with this certification gives us a little bit more, a little bit more protection. Now we filed our demand to bargain order. So hopefully they come to the table, which we know that's not going to be an easy task. We just now launched our campaign, Fight for $30 an hour. That's what we're fighting for. We're not fighting for 15, we're fighting for 30. With cost of living, inflation, all the things that are going up right now, we're way past $15 an hour. So we just launched our campaign. The workers are inspired. They are more so active than ever. Every week we're growing our trainings, our shop steward classes are growing. And hopefully, our goal is within a year to get a contract that is going to benefit not just JFK 8, but Amazon workers all across the world. Since we won, we've been contacted literally from buildings all over the world. I just came back from Canada 2 days ago. Prior to that was in London. Me and Derrick was in London a week ago. The international solidarity is growing. We had workers from Germany show up at our office last week. Italy's been calling, France been calling, Greece, Australia. They're all watching us. They're all inspired by us. So we're walking and chewing bubble gum at the same time. But this contract fight is going to benefit Amazon workers across the globe. So that is currently where we stand. And that's a real basic summary from my perspective. Now I'm going to pass it to the the vice president, my brother, Derrick Palmer.
I started working at Amazon in 2015, just like Chris did, in a building called EWR4 in Robbinsville, New Jersey. And then I transferred to JFK in Staten Island in 2018. Originally, I had no plans of unionizing. Me and Chris had no intentions of unionizing at all. We were just regular employees. He was a supervisor. I'm an entry-level worker. Working hard at Amazon, it didn't really equate to anything. That's what they were preaching to us. Like, you work hard, have fun, make history. That didn't work for us. We just worked hard just to put the money in the company's pockets. Trying to move up and excel in a company like Amazon is extremely hard. It definitely discouraged me. It discouraged Chris as well because, he wanted to become a manager. I wanted to become a process assistant, and that didn't happen. It didn't happen not just for us, but other people of color, weren't getting the same opportunities, as white people were at Amazon. Mentally, we're kind of checked out. You're just now, instead of like excelling for more, now we're just going to work, clocking in, clocking out. And, it's that part, it hurts a lot, because when you put in a lot of work for a company to not get anything in return, it makes you feel like you're not doing enough, even though you were. When the pandemic came, that's when things really took the turn. Like Chris said, not having the masks and gloves, the proper protection that we needed during the pandemic, really, it caused uproar. A lot of workers were scared. I myself didn't know what Amazon was going to do. It didn't seem like they wanted to do anything. We're packed inside of these large break rooms, hundreds of workers with no protection. People are getting sick. People are passing away. People are dying. And Amazon had no response, So like Chris mentioned about us going, gathering groups of associates, going to the main office, and then, and their response was, we're doing everything we can. Clearly that wasn't enough. So that's what led up to the infamous March 30 protests. And of course, the result of that was Chris getting terminated. Also, there was another protest after that, a week after that, to fight for him. And another organizer was fired. So me, I wasn't terminated. I received the final write-up. And the way the system works is you're supposed to get a documented coaching, first written, second, then the final. So of course, since I'm organizing, they go straight to the final. So we already knew that was union busting 101 right there. So that's why, we had to take a stance, we're getting fired, we're getting retaliated against, and that's what led up to forming the Congress of Essential Workers. And, like Chris said, traveling to every Jeff Bezos mansion we could find, making an impact, making a lot of noise, fighting for Amazon workers. Then Bessemer came, and, Bessemer did their thing. So originally, there was no plan of unionizing. We just wanted to advocate for Amazon workers. But, not necessarily inspired, but hearing about what happened, and Bessemer said, we pretty much said, what, we got to go out there. We got to figure out what's going on. And, it just wasn't the way that it was presented to the media. It wasn't that in person. So like the organizers out there weren't necessarily interacting with the workers. We actually were. We posted up right outside, right across the street from that facility in Bessemer, and started asking them, like, how do you feel about the union? Like, what are you going to do? Are you going to vote yes? We got a lot of mixed reactions. So we knew that they were going to be in for a battle when election time came, and lo and behold, they lost pretty significantly, 2-1. So that's what motivated us to say, let's do it in Staten Island, but let's do it independently because we feel like we can add different flavor to the labor movement, and the workers will be ultimately, motivated to form, to join and vote for a union because it's the workers. It's not a third party. It's not someone with a suit and tie. It's actual workers fighting for other workers. So that plan, it was a good plan, a successful plan, especially during the captive audience meetings. So once we launched our campaign in April of 2021, immediately they started with the emails. They started with the text messages, telling workers don't trust them. They're trying to get the money from you. They don't care about you at all. So of course workers were a little discouraged, but that's the beauty of organizing from within. So now myself and other organizers that are employed, we can talk to the workers directly and tell them that Amazon is just gearing up for a union busting campaign. And they don't really have your best interest at heart, because if they did, they would have given you more money. They would have given you better benefits. They wouldn't fire you, for no reason, which they've been doing. So ultimately, we knew that as long as we're interacting with workers, we'll be able to get the job done. Like Chris mentioned, no one believed in us but ourselves. But that really motivated me, really, to continue advocating and be the voice inside the facility, especially during those captive audience meetings where they try to call us third party. They try to say that, we're just stealing money. And, it didn't work. Pretty much I turned those captive audience meetings into union history lessons in there. So a lot of workers aren't educated about unions at all. So they don't really have, they don't have any opportunities to learn. So using that opportunity to teach them what unions have done in the past and what we'll do as the ALU really galvanized the workers. And even after those captive audience meetings were done, which were ultimately designed to discourage unions, which they've done. But after the captive audience meetings that I attended, that other ALU members attended, workers were asking how they can sign up and how they can get involved. So ultimately, people power won. Like Chris said, people power, nothing could beat people power. Not even Amazon and their millions of dollars that they spent on this anti-union campaign. We had, $200,000 in our GoFundMe? That was it. We had $200,000 versus their millions, versus their union busters who were getting paid millions of dollars, that were getting flown out to hotels from the South all the way to Staten Island to talk to workers and tell them why they shouldn't unionize, why they shouldn't fight for $30, why the ALU is inexperienced and they just want your money. How is someone from Alabama or someone from Kentucky gonna come to New York and tell workers what they don't want to fight for, like what they shouldn't fight for? It makes absolutely no sense. So we knew that, sticking to the game plan of just continue, organizing on the inside, organizing on the outside, ultimately, we were victorious. And now, now that we've won, the next big hurdle is the contract fight. We all know that Amazon's not going to come to the table unless we apply enough pressure. So that's why unionizing other facilities throughout the country is going to put that pressure on Jeff Bezos and Andy Jassy and them. And ultimately, we will be victorious and we will have a contract for sure. Thank you.
And to put into context, like Derrick was saying, these captive audiences, these workers were put in over 3,360 captive audiences within that 6 months of time frame. So imagine being a new hire, day one, day two, don't even know your job assignment, don't even know what you're going to be doing at Amazon first. But the first thing they do is usher you into a union busting class. Literally. So we were battling, the odds that we had to defeat you can't even put them on paper, really. It doesn't even add up, to the odds that we defeated. The captive audience is one thing, but the building was plastered wall to wall with anti-union propaganda, vote no. I'm talking about look like Squid Games. The time you walk in the building, and that was just one aspect to it. Another one, you got managers, you got union busters from all over the world. They was flying in from not just South Alabama, but we had someone come from like
London.
Britain,
Yeah.
London. So the way they do it is they try to match the demographics in the building. So there was Hispanic population, they go get a Hispanic union buster. Black, they go get a black union buster. They're really specific, and they pay these people anywhere between $3,200 a day to some of them making $10,000 a day. And we caught them. We was playing to catch a Pokemon in there. So we had most wanted signs, union busting faces, and we at the bottom, we had their salaries, $10,000, $19,000 a week. These are millionaires walking around telling poor people to stay poor. And that's what we were educating the workers on. Like this person's not who they say they are. They come in there, they're throwing a manager's vest. They even get a blue badge like an Amazon worker. And the company was hiring them directly, putting them on payroll. And they come in there with sob stories. Like they had one union buster who said that she was like this single struggling mother with 3 kids. Come to find out she was a millionaire, wearing mink coats and driving, high-end European cars. So, we had to expose that, because if we didn't do that and we didn't organize from within, these workers would never know. They would have just the company side, just the union buster side, and that'd be it. And that's what the first campaign in Alabama failed to combat, was that inside fight. They had, of course, they had very strong political view, political support, and celebrity support, and all that on the outside. But none of that matters to these workers that's on the inside unless they understand the bigger picture. So we spent a large portion of our campaign educating the workers and making sure that that relationship and that connection was there, because we knew that was the only way we were going to defeat Amazon.
Great, yeah, thank you. Round of applause again for our speakers. We have about 45 minutes for Q&A. So any questions that the audience has, we have a mic on this side and this side for, those who'd like to ask. I can start with you.
Hi. I was just wondering what we can really do from the outside to help the movement and propel it forward.
Oh, great question. So yes, we just launched our campaign. We have an emailing list, and I'm gonna make sure we get it to the folks that brought us down here so that we can share with you guys, you students. That's the biggest support campaign that we have now. It's like donations, rallies, demonstrations that are in the area, if you could join. But if you have, people that could donate whatever they can, we don't get union dues. The way we stay afloat now is by donations until we get a contract, of course. And, last year, within the 8 months, we had so many campaigns and workers reaching out from all over the world. We probably spent about $2 million just in the 8-month span since we've been organizing. And our legal fees alone are about $30,000 a month. And that's just because there's so many unfair labor practices that Amazon violate every day. Firing people, retaliating, writing up, targeting union organizers. Every single day we have a call with our legal team or group chat, and we have to figure out, what ULPs we have to take on, because they're costly, and Amazon knows that. Their goal, one other tactic of union busting, is to force the union to go bankrupt. So that's, this is why we say this fight is not just our fight, this is everybody's fight. When Jeff Bezos went to space last year because the president gave him $10 billion, that $10 billion was you guys' tax dollars, not just Amazon workers. Jeff Bezos doesn't pay taxes. We pay the taxes for him. So everybody should be upset that we're giving billionaires who have more money than 10,000 lifetimes money to go to space when they can take 1 million of those dollars and pay their workers $30 an hour. So, that's where we at now. We'll make sure that we connect, but also on the larger connection scale level, having these conversations at home. A lot of people don't know. You would think a lot of people know these stories and know what we've been doing, but they don't. And at home, starting with your neighbors, your friends, your relatives. This is a revolution that in America, we're less than 10%, but the inspiration is bigger than what we can imagine. The world watches America. Now, I don't know why, but we know why, because America is supposed to be the best, richest country in the world. It is a company. Definitely a company. But it's supposed to be, number one in the world, right? So it blows my mind how I go to these other countries now, or I talk to folks from other countries who have union density 90%, 95, 30%, 50%, more than us. And they're inspired by what we're doing, and it's not even a fraction of how militant they are. Like, they could shut down the whole country. Literally, they do it on a Sunday in Italy for nothing. In France, you already see, they got 700,000 workers that are just going strike because they want a coffee break. We don't do that in America. And it's motivational to see the inspiration that we have, and I just wish that workers can see that on a broader scale, but they don't. The disconnect and the divisiveness in this country is on an all-time high, and it's up to the community and along with the labor leaders, other unions. I shouldn't be the only one that's traveling to 60 cities in the last 3 months. Other labor leaders that's been in this fight way longer than me. Like I said, me and Derrick's been doing this 3 years. Amazon's been around for 29 years, kicking these other unions' ass. We kicked down the door. Now it's time for everybody to rush it. And that's where we at right now. We already broke down one barrier, becoming the first union in America. Now it's time for these established unions. It's time for the community. It's time for all the people that support workers' rights. Not even, whatever movement you're a part of, environmental, Extinction Rebellion, DSA, I don't know, women's rights. It doesn't matter. You're a worker at the end of the day. This is your fight. So we need everybody to not only support us, amplifying our efforts, but have these conversations with other people in this country, because in the next 2023, next few years, 1 out of every 4 Americans would have worked at Amazon. They hired and fired everybody, literally. Their turnover rate is 150% a year, meaning 3% a week. 200, 300 people lose their job. So forget about layoffs. They try to say 10,000 layoffs. That shit happens every day at a warehouse. We've been getting fired. 1 out of every 4 Americans in the next few years have worked or know somebody who worked at Amazon. That's insane. So this is our fight. It's not just the ALU. It's everybody's fight. We got to do it now. We're at a point of no return. If we do not fight, we do not know what the next 4 years is going to look like. And can you imagine? We're already dealing with the fact that Trump already appointed all these federal judges. So the fight that we're in now is so important. It's bigger than us. It's bigger than myself. It's bigger than the ALU. We understand that. But now we have to bring the community into the fight, and that's what we're trying to do with our campaign. So please share that. We're going to make sure that we have the link, and we want to make sure that everybody gets that. So thank you.
Thanks so much. There's an echo here. I'm just not going to use this. I'm wondering if you could established unions, and we're talking about how maybe they weren't able to get on the inside, or maybe that wasn't a priority for them. And kind of moving forward, do you think that structurally is an effective way to organize in the future, or do you think maybe a more decentralized approach that y'all have been starting? I'm just curious if you could talk
Yeah.
about that dynamic.
Yeah, I mean, well, if you look at us, we're grassroots. We're as grassroots as it comes. I don't look like I don't look like any union president in this country, so probably in the world. I don't look like any other union president for a specific reason. Representation is important. When they told me to come to the White House, I told them I'm coming as is, and don't invite me. And when it comes to unions have to be held accountable too. There's nothing wrong with that. There's a lot of disconnect inside these bigger unions because I guess you could say, they side too much with the Democrats. And when your members and your rank and file members, union dues are going towards politicians that don't do the work they're supposed to do, that's when the disconnect inside the unions and established unions happen. And I've talked to so many members across the globe, even in other countries, they still deal with the same thing. The establishment and their political ties what hinders the on-the-ground organizing. For example, we love the Starbucks campaign. We love the fact that they're organizing all these stores across the country so rapidly. Every week it seems like the numbers go up. And you wonder how they're able to even manage all of that. But I talk to a lot of these organizers. And it's the organizers on the ground that are leading these fights. It's not the established unions or the leadership of the unions. They barely have conversations with these organizers. And that is a good thing as far as the fact that they have control over their organizational skills and their organizational operation. But at the same time, the disconnect is when it comes time for resources, or let's say we want to call a strike, or we want to do something radical, the union's like, whoa, I don't know, we can't do that. That's one reason why we went independent, because we don't want to be in a position where we're ready to go and the union's like, no. And it's not to say that the unions can't refine the way their structure is, but a lot of them are top bottom and not bottom up. And I'm pretty sure you asked me this question for a reason, because people experience that. They know exactly what I'm talking about when it comes to their voice within their union or their representation within their union. It doesn't get heard all the time. And we noticed that. And this is the reason why we consider ourselves misfits of the labor movement, because we're independent. A lot of unions don't want to support us. They just don't, because we don't endorse their favorite politicians. We don't, in our Constitution, I don't endorse politicians. The union doesn't endorse them. We have it written. And, we're so, I guess I don't even know, we're so radical. We just do things that are just unprecedented, non-traditional. And when you're talking about, salts, union salts inside the building, they're important. Don't get me wrong, like we had plenty of them that joined our campaign, but that's not gonna win the fight. The reason why we were successful is because this is a 7-year Amazon vet. My lead organizers, they all worked at Amazon for several years. Before any union salt, before anybody came to help, these are actual workers that know the company better than anybody else. Established unions, whatever, it didn't matter. We know the company of Amazon. I opened up 3 buildings. Derrick, same thing, multiple buildings under his belt. There's nothing that a union can tell me that I don't know about Amazon. And not to say that joining one is a wrong thing. It's just to say that putting workers in the driver's seat is the ultimate power. What's more powerful than having 8,000 workers come to the bargaining table against Amazon and their lawyers? We get to walk in a room with hundreds of workers and sit down and say, here's our contract. There's nobody in between that. There's nobody that's saying, no, well, here's your contract, you got to sign off on it. No, we're drafting it. We're putting our demands in there. These are our voices. These are the workers' issues being incorporated into our negotiation. And I think that is the ultimate power to me. And I think it's a threat to the status quo, even when it comes to unions. They feel like, there's a lot of union presidents out here making $500,000 salaries. I made $31,000 last year. I make a worker salary. I actually make I actually make less than my Amazon worker as the union president, and I think that's important. So, us challenging the status quo is a threat. Being misfits, being independent, we embrace that because it needs to be challenged. There needs to be more Black and brown presidents in this country, and not just this country. There's other countries that have the same problem, and it needs to be worker-led. It's not enough worker-led unions out there, and that is the reason why we have seen such a decline in union density in this country. We need to fix that. So hopefully, our union and other independents that are forming, like the Trader Joe's, they're independent. I don't know if y'all seen the Apple workers, I believe some of them may be independent. And also recently there's been efforts at Home Depot. So these new worker-led independents are starting to form now. And I communicate with a lot of them on a daily basis. I want to make sure that this coalition continues to grow so that we can have that representation even within the unions as well.
Hi. I really liked the jacket that you wore next to Joe Biden in the picture that you took, if you know what I'm saying. It was tough. Yeah, eat the rich.
Oh, yeah.
Anyways, I I had a question about if hypothetically someone was in the hypothetical card signing stage and hypothetically talking to coworkers, like what your proposed strategy is to talking to a reluctant coworker, because obviously you guys had the Bessemer experience of talking to people who were reluctant about the union. So I just wanted to hear sort of your thoughts. And
Yeah, I mean, it's a marathon, not a sprint. You're gonna have workers talk that won't even talk to you, won't take a pamphlet, that'll walk past you for months, 2 or 3 months. Number one, you got to meet them where they at. Number two, try befriending them first. Don't even talk to them about a union. Don't talk to them about nothing. Ask them what's going on at home. Ask them what their personal issue is. Maybe I don't know. Try to befriend people first. And the reason why I say that, because when you start to talk to people and people like to talk, some people want someone to talk to. They just don't know how to start a conversation. And one thing about organizing is it's multiple conversations, not just one. And you can't just get discouraged because one person one day told you no, or they don't want nothing to do with it. We have those. Trust me, we're in New York. We've been cursed out. We've been, trust me, the things people say to us is wild. But we take that, we have thick skin, of course, but we don't even give up on them. We're like, all right, whatever. And we'll wait until that opportunity arises again. Once again, we wait for managers to do their job because Amazon's gonna get on their ass. And that one day when managers come out and they say, oh, I got written up for TOT, if we're not there at that bus stop, all right, Derrick's not at work, we missed the opportunity. Mm-hmm. So availability is the best accountability, but also befriend them. You understand, people, I already said, they don't watch Democracy Now! They don't watch the stuff that we watch now because they're not radicalized. They haven't been there. They haven't had that opportunity to go through something that's going to put them in a position to want to reevaluate their circumstance. So befriend them, just stay connected to them, even if it's through text or social media, and trying to figure out what are their needs. Maybe it's they have 2 kids at home, or maybe they have a second job and they're struggling. If you can build off a relationship off of that, then you can start to weed in talking about organizing and signing a union card. I get it. Most organizers, they're like, yo, sign this card because we're doing all these great things. But if you don't even bring out the card, you don't even talk about unionizing, you don't talk about anything going against our oppressor, we just want to have a conversation. You know, that's how we organize. Our creativity, setting up potlucks, barbecues, bonfires, partying. We love to party. Those community events brought people together, and then we were able to feed them the unionizing and what we're trying to do. And I think that's how we should all start. Befriend people and then hit them with the information that they need to know, because they just don't know. No worker is wrong, they're just misinformed.
Hi, thanks so much. It's really inspiring to hear you all talk. I was curious if you could talk a little bit about the continuing organizing and education efforts that you've been doing after the election, and what that looks like after, you know, so many legal challenges, when these mechanisms that are supposed to protect workers are, you know, failing in some ways. Like, what message, what does it look like, you know, in the workplace or otherwise when you're continuing to organize after the election?
Yeah. Well, I'll let Derrick answer the inside aspect of it, but from the outside, it has done nothing but expand as far as you know, workers being encouraged. So our biggest challenge right now is balancing everything. You know, we understand that our victory resonated across the globe, and what people, because of 2-day shipping, because of Amazon, I'm blaming Amazon for this, because in America, everybody wants things done fast. You know, people think like, oh, you guys won, where's the contract? They're like that, when's the contract, where's the contract? It's like, it don't happen that way, especially not in America, and it's definitely not in our favor legally. The laws are outdated. The laws are from the 1930s. You've seen how President Biden used the Railroad Act from 1945 to stop the strike last year. We're in 2021. I mean, 23. I'm sorry. Damn. 23. And that's how we had to adapt to organizing. We're in the 21st century. That's what I meant to say. And the technology, the tools that are given to us is how we reach the mass when it comes to educating workers. We use TikTok to our advantage. Amazon hated it. They hated our TikTok so much that if you watched our court hearing, it was all evidence of TikTok videos. That's all they presented, was like, here's Chris at the bus stop. Here's Chris in front of the building. It was TikTok videos. Our TikTok videos went viral, you know, and they sent 4 letters to the board the next morning. They ain't waste no time. And I don't know what they thought the board was going to tell us, like, we can't have TikTok. But it's the tools that we have is, you know, these conversations. And on a larger scale, you know, we created a culture that people want to mirror. You just can't do it the same way. You know, Staten Island is Staten Island. We got buildings in California. We got buildings we're about to go to Kentucky on Friday. I've never been to Kentucky, but I can have an imagination of what I'm about to walk into. You know, we have buildings in Minnesota, even down south, right to work states are still trying to organize. This is uncharted territory. We just know that the foundation of that was JFK. We just got to figure out a way to really identify with that community, specific community, once we get there. So we lean on a lot of the workers who are actually working at those buildings. And when they come to us for support, that's literally what we do. We don't tell them what to do. We don't tell them when to file. We don't tell them when not. Our job as workers is to put other workers in the position that we had. And that's how I feel the union should operate. You know, people want to bring up the other two buildings that lost. But just think about it. Was it really a loss? They're going up against $1 trillion company. These worker organizers were new to the company and also new to organizing, and they filed petitions in less than a year. That is not a loss in no capacity. They did it. They didn't win because Amazon spent millions of dollars in these two small little buildings. Besides JFK that has 8,000 members, these two small buildings have less than 1,500 workers. You know how easy it is to union bust there? So they didn't lose. They were never given an equal opportunity to even vote. Amazon illegal practices are so outrageous that right now, one of the buildings that lost actually may have the election results reversed and have a bargaining order before JFK. That's how illegal it was. So it wasn't a loss. We put workers in a position to file for a union against Amazon. Once again, Amazon's been around for 29 years, and it took the independent union to put these workers in a position. Established unions right now, your favorite ones, the Teamsters, AFL, CIO, you know how much millions of dollars they have in their strike funds? They're like $350 million. You think they gave it to us? They didn't even give us a penny. So why is that? You know, so we are doing something that is so powerful that even unions, the status quo, they can't even fathom it yet. We just know that this is the way it's supposed to be done, and I feel I stand on that. You know, I don't see it no other way. On the outside, that's just from the outside looking in. We have to continue to take shots. If we don't take shots, we're not doing a service to these workers. Win or loss, we don't count wins or losses here. We look at it as opportunities, and within the losses, other avenues have opened up. Legally, you know, the bargaining order, legally, we're holding Amazon accountable. They've been fined the most in history because of our efforts. We have national agreements that have never been done. We forced Amazon management to read the fact that they wrongfully fired the second worker after me. Inside the building, he had to read a memo to all 8,000 members. That's never been done before. A national cease and desist order, never been done before. So there's so many things that are opening up just from us organizing and taking these risks at other buildings that we can't stop. You know, how can we stop? It wouldn't make any sense for us to do that. And I'll let Derrick tell you what's going on the inside.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as far as organizing on the inside, we really kind of like laid the foundation, you know, during the campaign. You know, the workers are motivated now to get involved and really, you know, organize their departments based on what we did before. So once we got that actual certification, that's when workers really started to step up to the plate, and they've been coming to the office. You know, we already set up different departments in AFE2, PAC department. We have some in PIC as well. And now they're building their team and their department, and they're bringing them to the office, and they're getting all the information, you know, during our shop steward classes about what to do if you're about to get disciplined, or what do you do when a manager's about to write you up. So now that, you know, they're kind of they're organizing their departments, and now they're motivated, you know, to get more people involved, and that's what it's really about. You know, we planted the seeds, you know, after the victory. You know, I mean, before the victory, we planted the seeds on how to organize, and now they're taking it to a whole nother level, and, you know, they're even organizing, you know, while we're not there, and that was the goal. And that eventually is the goal for all other Amazon facilities throughout the country, so that we could put as much pressure on Jeff Bezos and them as possible.
Hey, thanks so much. Yeah, really interesting. My question is about turnover. So you mentioned that obviously turnover rates at Amazon's really high, like 150%, and that building long-term relationships is obviously really key to the organizing work you did. It feels like that high turnover, but also just like other areas of insecure work are huge barriers to organizing. Were there any things you had to do differently given that high turnover rate? And I just wondered if you could speak a bit more to that.
Oh man, yeah. Most unions file for elections with 80% before they even file, 70, 80%. We file with 30. So that's one. And that we had no choice, because we know that Amazon fired people every week, every day. There was no way we were going to get 50% to even file for an election. So we went in with the minimum, which is unheard of. And then we had to make the difference up, 50% plus one. So we didn't have that much time. From the time we filed, we had a matter of weeks to really get the other workers behind it. So that's the biggest difference I can think of when it comes to percentage-wise. What else have we done that was different? I mean, besides everything. I mean, we really, we were so creative. We play chess. We had to play chess with the company, and once again, I knew once our campaign started picking up, I started to decide there's certain things that is going to beat Amazon, and one of them is just doing things simply that they can't do. And it was so important for us being on the outside, myself at that bus stop, and Derrick and the rest of them, like in the break room, giving out food and literature and building that culture within. That was vital. If we didn't do that, there was no way we was going to win. There was no way we wouldn't have had the opportunity to have captive audience. We don't have that. We had 5 to 10 minutes with each worker, maybe if we're lucky. So it was just really share people power and really community. What I mean by community that we built on that island that brought the people together. Other than that, the difference is, we had to go in with the minimum. The turnover rate is just too high to combat. Amazon knows that. But we shared that knowledge with the workers. What I mean by education, the New York Times did an extensive investigation, and we had the New York Times article. So what we did was we printed it out and we spoon-fed it to the workers. We made sure we printed out thousands of copies, and we highlighted, we summarized it to make sure the points that showed that this company fires 150% a year. They fired over 50% of the Black and brown workers, specifically in JFK, in less than a year. They fire at a rate of 200, 300 a week. They also had workers who died at that building from COVID. Brain dead, have died, never received any type of condolences, nothing. We amplified all of that and we spoon-fed it to the workers. They didn't know, because once again, they do not go home and pick up a paper or watch the news. We don't have time to do that. I know, as a former Amazon worker, my job, when I worked there at 60 hours, my commute was 2.5 hours each way. So I worked 12-hour shifts, and then I had to commute 2.5 hours home after the 12-hour shift. And I was on the night shift. So imagine doing that and then turning around and going right back to work in a few hours just to catch the bus or train in the ferry boat and then another bus to get to work. I had to do 4 different things just to get to work. 1 bus, 1 train, and then a boat ride, and then another bus, just to get to Amazon to work 12 hours, get off in the morning, and do these 4 things again, just to come home, to take a power nap, and then by 2 o'clock, I had to be out the door. If I'm not out the door by 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm not getting to work on time, and I'm gonna lose my job. So these workers are under such scrutiny and stress and pressure. It's really is so inhumane. I can't even explain it unless you was there. And that's what the established unions have to understand, that when you're talking to these workers, they're not understanding why we're fighting so hard for them. They don't see the bigger picture because their lives are so reluctant on this check, this one paycheck from Amazon. It's their main source of income. To put that on the line is scary for them. So once again, we had to build a culture that just was never built before within the union. And the only way we were able to do that the way it's supposed to be done was going independent, you know?
Um,
Sorry, I'm just gonna talk here as well.
Yeah.
It's all good.
So I think one of the issues you touched on is the insanely old labor laws that exist in America and shuffle time in it. To me, that screams there needs to be some sort of political momentum towards changing that. And in that vein, it seems like the established unions have those political connections, although there are issues with how they're run. So I'm wondering if you guys have any ideas as to how someone working in one of these unions from the worker perspective try and change that culture so that those political connections that already exist could be leveraged in a way that's more productive towards advancing the labor movement nationally.
Oh man, damn. That's a great question. That's one I'm still trying to figure out, but I'll give you the best answer I could. One reason why I was here a month ago talking to these new lawyers, labor lawyers, we're building the labor lawyer like military right now. That's one aspect. You know, all these college students and lawyers that are about to enter the work field that I've been able and fortunate to connect with and speak to. I'm telling them what to do as far as like call to action. As far as the establishment, we're talking about, you know, established unions that's been over 100 years. And yes, their office and their headquarters are right across the street from the White House. You know, the AFL, the Teamsters, they can see the White House from their window. We visited, we know. And it blows my mind of why these labor laws don't get updated or just really abolished. Like they don't benefit the workers. They benefit corporations more than the workers, and they're so outdated that it just don't even make sense to use them. And we learned that along with our campaign as well. Like just filing a regular ULP, you would think that it'd be resolved. It's that easy. The Amazon fired me because I was organizing a union. They're like, yeah, but it takes 2 or 3 years to get your job back. And that's what we've been finding out as well. So to answer your question, accountability within the union is probably, especially these really powerful established unions. I don't know who I'm speaking to, but it has to be somebody from within, somebody that has been dealing with this system and is fed up. Because there's a lot of them. We have people that come to us from established unions all the time and say they're done with the politics, they're done with giving my union dues to these politicians, and they want that freedom to organize the way it's supposed to be, really grassroots. And I just tell them, you know, whoever is like-minded in that aspect in your union, you need to hold your leadership accountable. You need to bring it up to your leadership, because what I've seen, and from my experience, from traveling and meeting a bunch of these unions, the representation is just like Amazon. 70% of the presidents are white. The rest of rank and file members are Black and brown, indigenous, immigrants, and they're not getting their voices heard, or they're not feeling like that representation is there. And that's something that we deal with because leadership hasn't passed the torch. There's a lot of dinosaurs in this country that run the country. And dinosaurs, when I mean on political views, on politicians, and also leadership within these unions. It's been union presidents, some of them been presidents for like 70 years. Pass the torch. Your time is over. They don't want to give that power up. They don't want to give up their perks. They don't want to give up their salary. Like I mentioned, look it up. Some of these salaries is crazy. 250, 300, 400,000. Your union dues is paying that, by the way. Why do they need to make as much as a CEO if you're standing for the workers? So accountability within the union needs to be held, but that comes from the delegates, comes from the members, the rank and file members. I've been telling them my experience, and I say, hey, look, I was in Canada 2 days ago, and one of the workers ran against the president from the floor, and she was a Black woman from the floor. And I went to support her. I didn't even meet the president yet. I didn't care to. I know they're going to bring me out to one of their conferences eventually, but I don't care to meet the president. I want to know what's going on with the members on the ground. And what I heard was the disconnect. The Black and brown women, the members of that union, it's a very large union, 300, 400,000 members. There's no representation for them. They're tired. This president's been been running that union for over 20 years. And they ran against her. And the vote outcome, she didn't win, but she sent a powerful message. And that was important. The vote count, I believe, was like 430 to about 150 or something like that. But this Black woman from the floor ran against the establishment to send a message. And the members were galvanized behind her, knowing that she wasn't going to win, but they understood why she was doing it. And I said, you know what? That's how we start. We got to start with just taking the accountability to another level. And that starts from the rank and file members at the ground. Their union dues matter. They shouldn't be excluded from that. And what I've seen is that people don't even know where their union dues go. I had a rank and file member show to the teachers conference in Boston last year, and she was pissed off. She was like, this is where my money go every year. And it's true. It's true, yes. It goes to these nice, elaborate conferences, the presidential suites, the buffets, the open bars. It goes to all of that. The bringing celebrities, bringing musicians to perform, and these rank and file members don't even get to experience that. It's the upper sorry, you know what I mean? But it's the upper leadership that experience these perks, and not the rank and file members who are paying the dues. We do not want to fall victim to that. We want our dues paying members to be a part of every step of the way when it comes to forming our union. Our union is only going to be as strong as the membership. So that's the reason why we're sending a message by staying independent. And I'm hoping that resonates with people. We're not doing it to be rebellious. We're not doing it for any other reason. We are rebelling against certain establishments, but at the same time, we're doing it because the representation in our identity is all we have at the end of the day. If I walk away from the ALU tomorrow, the ALU is done. And that's what people don't realize. It's sad to say that, but it's true. If me and Derrick stop what we're doing right now, the ALU is finished. It's done. Who else is going to pick up where we left off? And that's the reality that we live with. It's a really tough question to ask and answer, but it shouldn't even be like that. It shouldn't be just me and him, amplifying the ALU. It should be the established unions that's been here for over 100 years. It should be everybody and their mother. But instead, we have to claw and fight, not just against Amazon, not just against the NYPD, not just against the government, but also against established labor. which makes no sense. And we have other countries that are so inspired by us. Blows my mind. But all I can say, the best advice is for anybody that has a disconnect within their union, do it the right way. Don't go rogue and go external and start talking, and that's divisive. But find collective inside the union, caucus, whatever you want to do, form something, and address that with the leadership. If not, if you have to, run against them. It's like they say, oh, primary, one of these elected officials. Yeah, sure. If I do that, it's going to be the president. I'm not going for these small time, but go. That's what we got to do within unions. Like run against the establishment, get that representation, because it's not there yet. It's not. I've met a lot of presidents and they don't look like me. And I'm talking about skin color. Very good leaders, great people. A lot of them done a lot for the labor in this country to get us to this point. They could have done a lot more. But we need more representation that's going to come from the younger generation.
Hi. You talked about how some of the traditional or more established labor unions are kind of structurally opposed to broader worker democracy. What are some things that y'all have done in your union to ensure that like rank and file members have their voice heard, like concrete suggestions for structural change?
As far as rank and file, yeah, as I mentioned, the national cease and desist order that we got last year against Amazon, that wasn't given to us. That came from the members in the building organizing. If they don't organize, they don't get these ULPs filed. The board doesn't understand or doesn't take action. And Jennifer Abruzzo, the general counsel, in particular, if you look at her remedies that she has put forth on holding corporations accountable, I can promise you 90% of those remedies are mirrored, are focused around the organizing at Amazon. And we, along with our members, have been hand in hand on writing bills. We drafted a bill with our state senator, Jessica Ramos. This bill is called the Warehouse Workers' Rights Protection Act. We drafted that. The workers did, line for line. We sat down with the senator several times. We went up to Albany several times. I've been on, plenty of demonstrations until that bill was passed by the governor. It took a while. We had to apply pressure in several different ways, but we made sure the rank and file members are the ones who drafted that bill. And now we're working on a second bill already. Year 2, we're already sitting down with another senator, Tiffany Caban, and we're doing the Secure Jobs Act right now as we speak. We're about to rally. I saw an email come in today. There's another rally plan for that. And we're going to make sure that the rank and file members are there for that demonstration and also play a part in drafting that bill. And that's the most important thing about engagement during the contract fight, is these small victories matter. And we use these engagement opportunities to just keep the rank and file members encouraged and not discouraged, making sure that they understand their voice matters on an everyday to day basis. Our offices is 5 minutes away from JFK. We specifically set up shop there so that workers have accessibility there. We talk about people that commute 2.5, 3 hours. They don't have vehicles. So having our office 5 minutes away from the building gives them opportunity to show up, come get the information they need, take tools and resources back to the building so that members understand what we're doing every single week as far as the union. We want to make sure that the union is going in the direction that they want it to. And that's just a few examples. of what we do. But every week we have members show up. We have members come to our office. We have trainings. We have programs. Our women's committee, they just had a beautiful event for women's the other weekend. We just had a wonderful holiday party. You know, we try to make sure organizing is fun. It's stressful, but we try to make sure it's fun for the members and keeping them engaged as well, you know.
We have time for, I think, one more question, or I guess 2 more questions ending at 8:30. A lot of hands.
Hi. So, so now that you won and Amazon's scared, and you're going around to these other places, these other buildings, do you think, are they just doing the same thing, or are there any new tactics that you have to fight against?
No, they definitely bring out new things in different locations, depending on you know, where the buildings are. To be determined on what to expect, but I can tell you this: majority of their tactics, they just rinse and repeat as far as the union busters. But the things they say always seem to change, because the way they divide workers is by creating a bunch of lies. So the more lies they create, the more they feel the workers are going to be conflicted to believe the truth, which is actually a good tactic. You know, every week, at one of our facilities in California, they have a different union buster on the VOA board, which is the Voice of Associates, pretty much just spreading misinformation. He spread so much misinformation, he even told the workers in California that New York is a right to work state, which we all know is a complete lie. But they do these things because they know that, once again, the workers are not going to really look into that. Our workers don't have the opportunity to Google or to research. And they always tell them, do your research, do your homework, knowing that these workers do not have the time to do that. The lies, the demonizing of organizers, they will go to no limit. You know, they call me and Derrick a bunch of thugs, gangbangers, with Black Lives Matter protesters, whatever that means. They've done it all. They said it all, done it all. They said I want a Lamborghini. I'm a BMW guy. They just don't know. They just make up lies. That's their objective as union busters. So we just sit back and wait for the lie to come out, and then we're like, oh, okay, well, that's weak. This one we got to pay a little bit more attention to. So as they come in, we once again continue to play chess. The newest thing, though, really is the fact that Amazon hires these union busters directly to hide their salaries now. So actually today, one of our lawyers just shared on his Twitter page, Seth Goldstein, basically that now we have so much evidence that Amazon's been lying about the finances of these union busters that they're under investigation by the DOL for the first time in history. Amazon has not paid, paid, well, yeah, they haven't paid, but they also haven't disclosed their financial records in the last decade. And nobody knew this. I'm like, wow, for 10 years, this company has not been disclosing their financial records when it comes to hiring these union busters. So we don't know how much money these union busters been paid at all. The government, the DOL. And come to find out, some of the DOL members, our ex-members, become union busters. Literally, we have one DOL ex-representative in a building in California right now as a union buster. So we're dealing with that as well. We even had a member in our building, she was a Teamster. She was on the executive board. Yeah. She flipped, became a union buster as a Teamster. So we're dealing with that as well. we're dealing with the fact that people from the union leave the union and become union busters. The politicians play a factor in that as well too. They took money from the same global strategist company that promotes their campaigns. Guess what else they were also promoting? For Amazon, the union busting propaganda. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all of that was being paid by the same global strategist company that your favorite politicians use, all the ones on the left in New York State. So by us organizing, we're figuring this all out. And this is what I mean, where we're battling so many different entities besides Amazon. That's the newest thing that we can learn is like, wow, we're not just going up against Amazon, we're actually battling all of these different entities at the same time. But we're also exposing a lot of things. The DOL investigation doesn't happen without organizing. The cease and desist doesn't happen without organizing. The bargaining orders do not happen without organizing. Nothing happens without organizing. And for 29 years, there was no organizing. That's the problem. We're organizing the way it's supposed to be, it's grassroots. A lot of people are not in favor in the way we do it. But it's the only way you're going to be able to defeat one of these powerful modern day history companies that break the law every single day on purpose. They know that breaking the law won't get resolved with 2 or 3 years. And within that 2 or 3 years, their plan is to once again drag it out in court, make us go bankrupt until they're able to decertify the union in the workplace. We know that's Amazon's objective right now, but we can't allow that to happen. We have to organize. So that's what we're doing now, is just focusing on organizing.
Any more questions? Last question.